The Silicon Valley Bank collapsed yesterday, marking the worst bank failure since the Great Recession and the second biggest bank failure in U.S. history. Which means only one thing, that CNBC's financial guru, Jim Cramer, recommended people buy the stock just a few weeks ago.
SVB Financial, don't you want? This company's a merchant bank with a deposit base that Wall Street had been mistakenly concerned about.
Wall Street is mistakenly concerned about them. Jim Cramer knows what's best. Buy, suckers!
It's a very compelling situation. Hey, by the way, long-term private equity and venture capital, they're not going away. Being the banker to these immense pools of capital has always been a very good business.
It's always been good business. Well, that was then, and this is now.
Yeah, this really is an earthquake, especially for the tech community. Silicon Valley Bank dropped by 60% yesterday alone. We just learned today that California regulators have shut this lender down.
So, of course, it's on Jim Cramer's favorite list. Just last week, it was also on Forbes' list of America's best banks for the 5th year in a row. This bank specialized in lending money to startups, which don't have the greatest track record for becoming profitable or succeeding in any way, shape, or form. And so they say the reason that it failed is because it lent out too many risky loans, and it's contained just to this one bank, and it's not going to spread to others, and there's nothing to worry about at all, which makes me worried because we know how big of liars these people are. Personally, I can't help but wonder whether or not they were lending out too many loans based on affirmative action instead of solid business plans, because they have a diversity, equity, and inclusion commitment, saying that their efforts were to foster more inclusive culture and increase racial, ethnic, and gender representation. So you want to build an app where people order groceries and have them delivered to their homes? Yeah. I'm sorry, sir, but Instacart already did that. Not to mention, most major grocery store chains have that feature built into their own apps. But my app is for black people. Well, why didn't you say so? What a brilliant idea, Tyrone. Here's your $10 million loan. Approved! Illegal aliens can actually get credit cards from numerous different major banks, and they can get driver's licenses in numerous different states, and many states now, the blue states, the ones that have been truly taken over by the Marxists, want them to be able to vote in local elections. And Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen just visited Ukraine to give Vladimir Zelensky more money. This a week after Joe Biden went there and gave him a bunch of our money. Why our country is wasting the resources to not only have the President of the United States travel into a war zone, but then a week later have another one of his cabinet secretaries go over there to give more money, remains a mystery. Actually, we know why. It's the hotbed of money laundering for the globalists.
You know, the Ukrainian government is one of the worst in the world. Corrupt, controlled by a few rich people. Really unfortunate for the people in Ukraine.
CNBC's Jim Cramer, the Jerry Springer of finance, has a long history of peddling garbage shortly before the stock completely collapses. Here he is back in 2008, assuring people that Bear Stearns is totally fine and telling them not to take their money out when, well, it collapsed just a few days later.
Anyway. Okay, Peter writes, should I be worried about Bear Stearns in terms of liquidity and get my money out of there? No. Bear Stearns is fine. Do not take your money out. This is really, look, if there's one takeaway other than a plus 400 somebody, Bear Stearns is not in trouble. If anything, they're more likely to be taken over. Don't move your money from Bear. That's just being silly.
He has such an eye for talent. Here he is talking with Elizabeth Holmes, who was sentenced to over a decade in prison for creating a fake machine that she claimed was going to revolutionize blood work.
To me, it's reasonable to compare you, I usually don't do this, to Steve Jobs and what he did for computing. I regard you as a visionary next generation person. Is this the kind of ridiculous pressure that nobody needs?
Well, you are ridiculous, Jim. You got that right. I'm not a big financial guy, but the two books that I've found that have been the most educational for me are Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game and The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by John Bogle. He's the guy who actually created index funds, which are like mutual funds, but way better because they're not actively managed and there's a lot lower fees. If you don't know what a mutual fund is or what an actively managed fund is, that's all the more reason to order the book. So I would highly, highly recommend these for anybody, even if you have a normal job and you have an IRA and your employer, contributes or matches a few percentage. It's a very complicated field. A lot of people out there shilling get-rich-quick schemes. You're only going to get poor quick. If you have any chance of being rich, it's going to take 30 or 40 years of investing and have a lot of patience and knowing what it is that you're doing. So these are the two best books that I've found on the subject, again, which I'll leave linked up in the description below. When the entire liberal media industrial complex was promoting this woman as literally the next Steve Jobs, normal people started seeing red flags. And it turns out that, of course, the conspiracy theorists were right. And I'm sure you'll enjoy my new Conspiracy Theorists Were Right shirt, which you should order from markdice.com or click the link in the description below. Like all of my designs, it's available in a t-shirt, long sleeve, and a hoodie, and a whole bunch of different colors as well. So head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.